But, somebody who certainly didn't necessarily shed any tears tonight, but had the night of her life is
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark. She was picked number 1 overall. I mean, that's no surprise, right? But being there in the room watching
Mhm.
that, what was your reaction to her being picked number 1?
First of all, I loved her outfit. She had on this Prada fit, and it was very much like up her alley, but it also was like a little bit surprising because we're not used to seeing Caitlin Clark like that, right? It was
The
a little showing a
sparkle.
little bit of skin, a little bit of
Yeah.
leg. She looks really good. She's calm, cool, and collected, but I think it's easy to be all those things when you kind of know where you're going and where you're going. She knew she was going number 1, unless like the sky was falling and something happened, and it just wasn't going to be the case. But she was just very calm. She was very gracious. She was very happy to be there. So many Clark fans were in the building. And I think it's really cool that she's going to Indiana. I think it's the perfect fit. Obviously, it's not too far from where she played in college. So a lot of that fan base will travel with her. As we know, 36 of the 40 regular season games that the Fever have are going to be nationally televised. So Clark Mania is going to continue. But one thing I really do like about this team and why I think it's a perfect fit for her is because you have to realize this is a team that has number 1 and number 2 draft picks going back multiple seasons. They're built for the spotlight. They're built for the limelight, and the extra attention that Caitlin Clark is going to bring to this team, especially with all the regular season national games that they have, is not going to shake them. It's not going to rattle them because they've kind of had that spotlight on them already. This is just going to magnify it. So I think for her, it's beneficial to be in that environment that's not going to be too shaken by it. And also, listen, she's making the transition from collegiate to professional, and the girls that she's playing with have already been playing on the professional level. So that's a level of leadership that they're going to provide for her, and they're going to be able to help her along the way. So it's a perfect, I think it's a match made in heaven, truthfully.
It absolutely is, and one thing that I really cannot wait to see is her playing with Aaliyah Boston. Um,
Yes.
Something that is
Who I met tonight. She's so cute.
she really is cute.
So
She's
cute.
amazing on every level, and I love seeing her get into TV as well. She's doing a great job. She hosted the, orange carpet
Yes.
tonight, and
Yes.
she killed it. So it's been great to see that for sure, but one thing that is very I would even say underrated is, Caitlin Clark's passing ability, and
Mm.
she is going to utilize that in every way on this team, and I just cannot wait to see the chemistry, the passing, the everything with her and Aaliyah Boston. Um, it's just gonna be a match really that everyone is going to see and need to see, and it's going to bring this team to another level, not only just with Caitlin Clark, but how everybody on that team works together and moves. I just think it's gonna be something beautiful to watch.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I think we get so caught up in the sexy parts of players' games and obviously the 3-point shooting, the high volume shooting. We love to see it. We love the half court shots. It's just very enjoyable. It's high entertainment. But her passing, her court vision to me, just like you, is probably the most impressive. I'm always so amazed by athletes in general across the board when it comes to basketball who can see the court unfold steps ahead of it actually unfolding like that in real time. And the way that she knows where her teammates are at all times and the passes she's able to make because of that court vision not only just speaks to her skill set and how deep her bag is, but also her IQ. And I think you can also see how much of a student of the game she is because there are so many aspects of different players, both from the WNBA and the NBA, that she has aspects of in her game that it's just so cool to watch. She's like the perfect hybrid player. And if you had to take bits and pieces of some of your favorites, she would have a little bit of everything. But I think that court vision is going to be so huge for Indiana. It's just not only do you have a floor general, but you also have somebody who can go ahead and put up high volume shots. And that's like a double-edged sword. It's going to be very, very fun to watch. And they knew what they were doing. The league knew what they were doing, giving them 36 out of 40 national games. I'm just saying.
Oh, they definitely knew. I mean, you could even see they dropped merch right away the moment that she was called because they knew
Yep.
that they were gonna capitalize on that. There's so many moving parts that are already in motion just from her being picked tonight, right? So it's going to be something that is going to develop and I hope changes the game just as much as it did with the college game, right? I hope it
Yeah.
changes the W just as much because the best players in the world are playing in the WNBA. They've been playing in the WNBA, but bringing more eyes to the sport. Anything that Caitlin is going to do to bring more awareness to the W, I welcome it in every single way because every single one of those players deserves that visibility. They deserve to see that. So it's not only going to be Caitlin Clark that are bringing new people to the game, but I will take all that comes with her because the league deserves it.
And
It
it was
deserves it.
like this is my first W draft. I've covered NBA drafts before in my career, but Brooklyn, where it was, the venue, I mean, the streets were lined up with fans. It was mayhem. Inside the theater was mayhem. It was just a level of support and excitement that we haven't seen for a very long time. And I know the cool thing is to kind of, on Twitter, the naysayers and the pessimists are like, well, let's see how they do next year with all this talent gone. Juju Watkins is still there. Paige hasn't declared. She's obviously coming back. There's still so much talent. And I think that the fan base has grown so immensely this past season that there are going to be people who are tuning in to kind of watch it all transpire again. And we speak about this all the time. The difference between the women's game and the men's game when it comes to the college level is that you're able to grow with a Caitlin Clark. You're able to grow with an Angel Reese from freshman year to junior, senior year. Whereas the men, come June, it's a lot of guys in the draft who are one and done players. You got to support them during their 1 year in college. And then it's like, okay, well, the next batch comes in. The women aren't like that. And I think that speaks so much to why there's so much support and just fandom around them because you actually grow with them. And you get to watch them develop from freshmen who are still trying to figure it out to now going and playing on the professional level. And that's probably my favorite thing about the W and the transition from college to the W is that we got to watch these girls grow.
Well, and speaking of transition from college to the W, there's a lot of talk around, players that are coming in that have a rude awakening coming. Like they're thinking that it's going to be an easy transition going in. And when I think about Caitlin Clark, I personally think she's going to transition very well. But what are your thoughts on her transitioning from the college game to the W?
I think obviously, you're going against players who've been doing it longer than you, right? So you're not going against college girls who also just like you are developing as players. You're going against women who have been in the league for X amount of years. So they're coming for you. She does have a target on her back. Let's call a spade a spade. We heard, Diana, we've heard all these other players kind of talking about, yeah, when she comes to the W, it's going to be a different conversation. And look, that's part of the game when you come in and you're a top draft prospect and you have all this, hoopla around you, much like Wemby when he entered the NBA, there's a target on your back. We're going to welcome you to the professional league with a different type of welcome than you may be accustomed to. But I think that the game has become such a scorers heavy league and it's so reliant on the three ball. It's so reliant on just being able to score that I don't know if her transition is going to be as difficult as people are making it seem. Now, she's obviously going to have some issues on offense in terms of what she normally likes to do. The tape's going to be out. You lock her down, you know what happens. But the difference versus her at Iowa versus her in Indiana, you lock her down, you still got to worry about the other four girls on the court and they're coming for you. So I don't know if it's going to be as tricky as a situation as people are making it seem. It's just going to be an adjustment.
Right. And I think for Caitlin, the biggest adjustment is going to be not being around her family. Like she's really family
Mhm.
oriented. And, while she will have, I believe her boyfriend is going to be in the same state, and I'm sure she'll have some friends around her. She's going to not be in a situation where she's surrounded by family. That's a transition too. I think people
Yeah.
don't talk enough about those types of transitions. I mean, look, 8 days ago, we were playing college basketball games, and now we're at the draft and we're about to start practicing. I mean, that in itself is a transition that
Mhm.
rookies have to deal with. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to be this like big play transition, like for some of these rookies, but
Mhm.
there's going to be a transition nonetheless. And so for me, it's like, how do they deal with any type of transition and not just on the court?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that happens in all professional sports when you're making that transition from college to professional, right? There are some players who are very fortunate. They get drafted to their hometown or they get drafted to the same state or the same city that, they went to college in. So their friends are there, their support system's there. When that's not the case, it's an adjustment. And also, unlike college where you have a very regimented schedule, you have a lot more free time as a professional. And I've interviewed, people making that transition in all sports, from the NFL to the NBA to the MLB. And they say to me all the time, yes, the game is a little bit different in terms of the speed and what you have to know, what you don't have to know, how you have to adjust. But the hardest thing is not having your schedule packed like you do in college. You have practices, you have classes, you have practices again, you have film. Whereas in the professional, it's like 1 to 2 hours of practice, maybe, and the rest is for you to figure out. We're not here to hold your hand and babysit you. And for them, that's always been the toughest adjustment, is the free time, because you don't have that in college.
Right. That's a definite adjustment. And I guess we'll see. Like, time is gonna tell, right? We'll see in that first, you know, preseason game even how Caitlin is gonna adjust. And I'm really excited to see that.